Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Jump In with Jumi here on blackdoctor.org. I'm your host, and today we are talking all about hair care. What questions do you have about hair? What questions do you have about how to achieve your optimal length, how to reverse any damage, how to, just anything you have about your hair care journey? Go ahead and put those in the comment section because today's show is all about getting you the information that you need and the questions that you have answered. From products to styles to conditions to treatments, we're covering it all today. So you know what? You're in the perfect place to get your questions answered. But before we get started with our guests, let me know where you're tuning in from. Our guests are coming to you from all over the country today. So let me know where you're watching from. And also make sure you like this broadcast and you share this show. Let people know that if they want to get their summer styles right, if they want to make sure that their hair is the optimal health that it can be, that they need to be right here, right now. So make sure you share this episode. Make sure you like it because it is time to introduce our first guest. Dr. Kerry is a licensed barber, cosmetologist, celebrity hairstylist, and she is also a board-certified trichologist. She is passionate about hairstyling and education and has merged her passion and degree to create a business that caters to a market that is interested in natural hair and seeking guidance on how to achieve healthier hair. Her reputation as a trusted stylist has led her to establish a relationship with some notable celebrities who include Ava DuVernay, Megan Good, Khalees, and Halle Berry, just to name a few. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Kerry. Welcome, Dr. Kerry.
Hi, Jumi. How are you?
Good. So before we get started, I want to make sure I also bring on our next guest, who is a board-certified medical and cosmetic dermatologist with a subspecialty interest in hair loss, eczema, hyperpigmentation, skin cancer prevention, and skincare consultations. She is dedicated to patient-centered care and education and thoroughly enjoys every scope of her practice, routinely treating hair, skin, and nail problems in pediatric and adult patients. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Hope Mitchell. Hello, Dr. Mitchell.
Hi there. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm so glad that you all are both here with me. Thank you for jumping in and joining us today. I know it's super important to viewers that they know that stylists and dermatologists should work together as a team so that, when it comes to achieving healthy hair. So I'm really happy that you all are here with us. Yeah. Dr. Kerry, why don't I start with you and go ahead and introduce yourself to the viewers and tell them a little bit more about you and your work.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me on the show, and hello to all of the wonderful viewers who have joined us here today. As Jumi said, my name is Dr. Kerry, and I am a trichologist, and I am a specialist in natural hair. So as a licensed barber and cosmetologist, I established a business here in Los Angeles called Mahogany Hair Revolution. It's a hair care salon that caters to women, men, and children who want to keep their hair healthy and, most importantly, be able to style their hair without chemicals or excessive heat. And I've been committed to this work for over 18 years, and I'm just so blessed that I can combine my scientific understanding of hair, use the relationships that I have with dermatologists, not only create beautiful styles for my clients, but to help them reach their hair goals. And as Jumi said, with my passion for hair care, I've had the opportunity to work with a number of celebrities, and I'm so glad I can be a part of this conversation today.
Yes, thank you. Oh, so happy that you're here. It's going to be such a great conversation. Love your expertise, and I know that the viewers are going to get so much information from you. Before we jump right in, Dr. Mitchell, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the viewers about you?
Sure. My name is Dr. Hope Mitchell. I am a board-certified dermatologist. I've been in practice for about 23 years, and I do specialize in hair loss and just really helping people achieve overall healthy hair. I also specialize in hyperpigmentation. I have a private practice in Ohio called Mitchell Dermatology, and I see lots and lots and lots of patients with hair loss. I'm really excited to get right into the topic.
All right. Well, with that, let us get right into it. So I want to start with the question of, what does healthy hair actually mean? Like, what does it mean to have healthy hair? And what is with the myth that Black women can't have long, natural, healthy hair? Dr. Kerry, why don't we start with you?
Well, I like to say that healthy hair is hair that is not breaking. So as far as we talk about the actual physical condition of the hair, there's good elasticity. So like if you were to take your hair strand and do like a gentle pull, it's not breaking easily. It has a good balance of moisture and strength.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about healthy hair, I always think about it being connected to the scalp, because oftentimes we put so much emphasis on just the body of the hair, knowing that healthy hair really begins from the inside out. So I like to approach the conversation of healthy hair from a holistic standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that the myth that we can't grow long, healthy hair is really due to our hair care practices.
Mm.
So I tease my clients. I say, if you're breathing, your hair is growing. So what we have to do is we have to figure out why it's either breaking at the end, so you're not able to retain length, or ultimately explore the whole lifestyle and figure out what may be impacting the hair growth cycle.
That's real. Because the whole thing about the scalp, like, yes, we do not think about that. We're just like, it's breaking at the end, get it trimmed. But it's like, well, what about the scalp? What is happening? So what do we need to be doing with our scalps to promote the healthiest hair that we can have?
Well, I would say very basic. First of all, clean. I think that a lot of the practices, the hair care practices, especially in the Black community amongst Black women, is we can go a long time without shampooing and thoroughly cleansing our hair. And I believe with the number of Black women who are transitioning and embracing their hair in its natural form, a lot of the education around maintaining and caring for natural hair is missed. Our schools are not set up to teach us how to care for our hair in its natural state. And so conversations like this are really important so that we can get out the right information on how to care for our hair in its natural state. So keeping it clean is first and foremost, and then having a hair care regimen where you can really identify the products. Because everyone's scalp is different. And some people have scalp conditions and disorders. And I know that Dr. Mitchell can really contribute to that aspect of it. But that's where I would like to start. We got to keep our scalps clean and make sure we're using the right products to keep our scalps clean.
So what about diet? So there's a question, how much does diet play in the role when it comes to scalp health?
I think it plays a huge role, right? I think that we are what we eat, just period. We are. So if we eat healthy, then we're going to have healthy skin and healthy hair. I definitely agree with Dr. Kari in that we want to have a healthy scalp. And that's really where dermatologists, we look at the scalp and we help people to understand that an itchy scalp is not healthy, right? So itchy and flaky and red scalps, scalps.
And doing this is not healthy.
Right. You know what I'm saying? That is not cool. And so when we see our patients, it is our job to help them understand that a healthy scalp is necessary to grow healthy hair. And so, I talk to my patients a lot about foods that are just going to promote overall health and wellness, your fruits, your vegetables, your fiber, right? Everything that anything that we can get fiber from to increase our content, we know that does the body good. Protein, etc. And so you cannot, in my opinion, achieve healthy hair without a healthy diet. I just don't think that you can. I think that it's a huge asset in really being able to grow healthy hair.
Okay, so then we'll get down the fact that, you got to make sure that your scalp is okay and that you're having the right diet and drinking the water and doing everything you need to do. So what about when it comes to really understanding then your hair type and what we need to be doing for our respective hair types? From 3C to 4B, we know all of that kind of stuff, right? What does that actually mean? And what is the value in knowing our type?
Well, I'll take that one.
All right.
I have an interesting perspective about the hair typing system.
Okay.
I believe it was created to help consumers identify their curl pattern and help them choose products that would work best. I know for myself and a number of professionals, of course, we become acquainted with the hair typing system. But when we think about just the nature of curly hair in general, and we're talking about like the foundation of health, the hair typing system, it can create a lot of, I feel,
confusion.
Confusion. Yes, that's gonna be the word. The confusion comes to mind. And then I also think it plays a bigger role in our community around this hierarchy around curls. Like I like to say, it almost parallels to like a form of colorism, but with like hair, because no one wants to be a 4, okay, which is the tightest, most coiled curl pattern. So I believe that the system is helpful again when women have an idea of their curl pattern, when choosing products to enhance their curl, to style their hair. I work with my clients as far as the foundation of keeping their hair healthy. I like to stick to the basics and keep it simple. Because when you talk about curly hair in general, there are different types of curls, of course, which is what the hair typing system does. There's different degrees of curl. Diameter of the hair shaft can vary, which will create different densities and thickness and stuff like that. But when we think about curly strands in its basic form, curly hair tends to be more naturally porous. It needs moisture. It needs extra lubrication on the ends. It needs protection in the form of styling, and that can vary. It doesn't mean you need extensions.
Right.
And I'm just going to go back to the simplicity.
It just keep it simple. Keep it simple. Well, let's talk about that, and let's talk about. You did mention something that I want to touch on is moisture. I think moisture is one of the things that we all struggle with. Is getting the right balance of what's too much, what's too little. Dr. Mitchell, like, talk to us about moisture and the products and how we can figure out the right balance of moisture when it comes to moisture.
It's really hard, right? Because we have not been taught, traditionally how to care for our hair. But the fact is that of all ethnicities, right, Afro-textured hair, right, is the most fragile. And it's what that means is that with the coil, with every bend and twist, it has the ability to break. And, we do produce sebum at the scalp, but that sebum is not able to come down the shaft, which is curly, right? It's very difficult. And so we don't tend to have oily hair like women who have straight hair or Caucasians who have straighter hair. We tend to have drier hair because that oil is not getting down the shaft. So one of the things that I have to do with my patients is really educate them about that. That it really is dry, and that the solution is not putting grease and oils onto the scalp. What we think that that's what we need is we need to oil and grease the scalp. We came from that, right? That's what we saw growing up, some of us. I mean, I'm dating myself. So definitely we want to do things that will put more moisture into the hair, like steam treatments is one of my favorites to explain to my patients, using the correct products, really getting that moisture into the hair. And I think water-based products that have water as the first ingredient are best for some Afro-textured hair types, not all of them.
Not all.
But I do think that some, can benefit from that.
Let's talk about products, because I think that is probably something that we all need some guidance on about products. So you mentioned water-based products are starting with the ingredients starting with water. What are some of the best shampoos, conditioners, and moisturizers for our hair that, what are some ingredients that we should look out for? What are some ingredients that we should avoid? I know what is it, like petroleum, mineral, no, stay away from that. Water's great. But you tell us, what else should we look out for?
Yeah, I can jump in on that. Definitely minerals, phthalates. Definitely we want to stay away from those. I tend to recommend oils like jojoba oil, argan oil, just something lighter.
Okay.
But, some of my hair types really like olive oil. Some of my hair types like castor oil. Again, on the hair.
Castor oil seems so thick, though.
Yeah, but some hair is really dry. It's not every day.
Right.
But certainly there are some hair types that benefit from a heavier oil. And I think that's another part of education is really getting your hands into your hair, really understanding your hair itself. Because products themselves, we look at them and we think, wow, that would be great for my hair. But until you really understand your hair and its needs, it's really difficult to pick a product, I think.
So I want to touch on that. How do we understand our hair and our needs, Dr. Kerry? What do we need to do? I need to know my hair. What do we do?
Well, hopefully after this pandemic, a lot of us know our hair. Okay, down. Okay, they shut us down, the hairstylist. But that's really real, though. I mean, you being able to touch your hair, do your hair, feel your own hair, and then you can utilize your stylist as a guide, as a partner, but you have some familiarity. And then let's say, because there are some people who are like, because I have the clients, like Dr. Kerry, I've done my own hair. I still don't know what's going on.
Yes.
Yes, I touch it, it feels good, or maybe it don't feel good. I don't know. So that's when partnering with a stylist who you trust, someone who's knowledgeable, someone who is demonstrating that they care about your hair as much as you care about your hair, and they're willing to go on this journey with you. And as a hairstylist, we are trained, to understand hair. So your stylist can then guide you and then point you in the direction of products and help you build a hair care regimen. And when I'm building hair care regimens with my clients, like yourself, Jumi, who's like, help me out, make sure that one, we're simplifying the hair care routine, and we're at least using the products for 3 months to see how the hair responds. And then if we need to make adjustments because we're keeping the hair care regimen simple, we can do so.
Okay. And you talk a lot about the simplicity in hair care, Dr. Kerry. I need to know what you're telling your clients, because hair care and simple, that does not seem.
I'm measuring Well, I get it, because with the internet,
yes,
there is so much information. And like Dr. Mitchell, I was getting my scalp greased. And somebody
said that in the comments. Somebody just mentioned, they're still scalping. They're still,
pink oil moisturizer, like
sulfur 8.
Sulfur 8. So as I began to build my clinic and I began to consult with so many women, I kept encountering the same experience with so many women. They're like, when I was younger, my hair was so long and so thick. And when we think about what was happening, what were you doing? You were shampooing your hair, you were conditioning, you would grease it, you would braid it, or you would style it from there, right? So you shampoo, you condition, you protect. You shampoo, you condition, you protect. Now, of course, those products had like the mineral oils and the petroleum and sulfates, but it worked. Why? Because a sulfate is designed to break down mineral oil. It's a surfactant. So we're putting these heavy oils on our hair, which we're protecting. They were sealing. And yes, it was creating such a barrier that you would need the sulfate to remove it so you can go through the process again. And so in experiencing that myself as a young Black girl, getting into the hair industry, having repeated conversations with women who look like me, I'm like, we need to get back to the basics. And we just got bombarded with information because so many women were only getting their braids or their natural hairstyles for vacation. Right? For the society, because of how we would be discriminated against. Now that we're in a space where we have laws, and we have more examples where we have women who are wearing their hair natural, and we are doing it more proudly, and there's more information out there. It's time to get back to the basics, because I believe that my experience in the hair industry is that a lot of wonderful communities sprouted up as more and more women explore natural hair, because they didn't know there were stylists like myself who existed. They were creating safe spaces where they were, experimenting and sharing with one another. This is what works. This is what I'm doing. And women, and that's when our blogs and our website started to grow. But now we're in a space where people are like, it's a lot. On YouTube, and you mixing avocados with eggs
and bananas and all kinds of
ice water. Somebody said put monostat on the scalp, your hair will grow back. I said, so I definitely need to get back to simple things.
Yes, and I think that is so important, is for everybody to get back to simplicity. How important do you think the Crown Act is for helping women like break away from the hairstyles that they feel like they have to really embracing their natural styles and getting back to the basics and the simplicity of it?
Just critical. Absolutely critical, that we be comfortable in our hair, that we can feel like we can go to work and not be discriminated against, not be harassed. You know what I mean? Because I still have women where there is that struggle. But I tell you, the number of women that have been liberated has been awesome. Do you know what I mean? Especially when we're going through treatments, where people, we don't, that are experiencing hair loss, we're going through treatment. We don't want them to do some of these styles that really are going to prevent the improvement that they're working so hard for. I think it's just absolutely critical. It really is.
Yeah. Dr. Harry, go ahead.
I agree with everything that Dr. Mitchell said. It's just been so important. And I encountered the same thing over years with clients who were nervous about transitioning or choosing a more natural style, and actually experienced discrimination at work when they wear their hair naturally and would come back and tell me stories. And so I think it's so important that we do have these laws in place. It's like a dual thing for me. It's disappointing that we're in 2021 and we have to have these laws in place. And yet the necessity of it, because of the constant discrimination that we as Black people experience in our workplace and even at schools. I mean, we've seen the stories of the children have been discriminated against or punished. How their hair naturally grows.
Well, we're going to continue to love on our hair naturally in whatever style and whatever, we've got going on. And I love the fact that, it's important to have a healthcare team. I do want to bring on our other guest, is Dr. Yolanda Lindsay. Welcome to the show, Dr. Lindsay.
Hello.
Another Black dermatologist. Absolutely love it.
Oh, I can't hear you guys.
You can't hear us? We can hear you, though. Can you hear us?
Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I can't hear you guys. I don't know what's up. Oh my goodness.
Okay, we'll bring Dr. Lindsay back in a second. But I did want to continue to kind of talk about, when it comes to, we know what we need to look for when it comes to our moisture, shampoo, conditioner. What do we need to look for when it comes to a stylist? Because we've heard, I know everybody's experienced like horror stories when it comes to stylists. You walk in the salon, you get it done, you walk out and you look like boo boo the flu because your hair is messed up and your hair is breaking the week later. What do we need to look for in a stylist to make sure that they are maintaining our hair?
I think that, gosh, I'm just going to jump in really quick because I get this a lot with my patients. I think a stylist that's going to listen to me, right? I want to go to someone who's going to hear me out, that someone who's going to help me, like I think Dr. Kerry mentioned earlier, be able to empower me to take care of my own hair, right? We are in a partnership that is going to acknowledge when I have a problem with my hair or my scalp, right? And is not going to continue to do styles that are going to worsen my condition, right? That are going to be honest with me and are going to say, you know what, you look thinner. We have a little situation over here. I've heard so many times that, my patients that come in, they're like, and my stylist just now telling me, partly you say, well, didn't you notice? But, so we want that partnership to be where we are told, look, you have a problem. We need to, get you in with someone who can help you. And then be a partnership. We're a team.
Yep.
We're a great team. I am part of the team as the client. We have the hairstylist. We may have a dermatologist on board, but we're a team and it's all for my good as the client.
And we know that if they don't listen to us, then we start to experience things like such as hair loss around the edges. And we're going to talk about alopecia. And yes, Odetta just took the words right out of my mouth. We're going to talk about protective styles now, because that I think is so important. What we think that it is protecting our hair is actually damaging our hair. And that damage can become irreversible if we don't take care of it immediately. So let's talk about some of these conditions. Let's go into talking about protective styles. Are our protective styles really protecting our hair? Dr. Kerry.
Well, that is a multi-layered question. One, I would say, I like to first define protective. And so for me, a protective style is a style that will give your hair a break from regular and daily manipulation. So as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't mean that you have to have extensions. It means that you could twist your natural hair. You can braid your natural hair. You could do a beautiful wet set on your hair. And and when you wear that style, what it does is typically those styles with your natural hair will last you 2, sometimes even 3 weeks, depending on the client. And it gives your hair a break from the daily manipulation. because our hair is fragile. And so if you don't have to comb and do all that, then you're going to experience less breakage. But there are protective styles that cause more damage. And that leads back to the stylist, how our stylists are trained. Again, when it comes to natural hair, braiding, and a lot of the styles that are very cultural and specific to Black hair care, there aren't formal institutions of training that show us how to do it. It's a cultural practice that's passed down. And so you have very talented braiders, but they may be using too much tension. They are adding too much hair to extension styles, which is creating weight. And then when we talk about products or even the type of hair that's available on the market, the different hair fibers that can dehydrate the hair, that can cut into our natural hair. And so unfortunately, when you have a stylist who may not be trained in the proper way to install a protective style, then you can experience damage. The other side of that is the education for the client, because then we have cultural practices like, I'm gonna keep my braids in for 3-4 months.
The whole summer.
Or not shampoo while you have the styling.
Or I'm not, Dr. Mitchell is on. I'm not gonna clean my hair, or shampoo my hair. And so in that case, the style that was serving as a protective style, now it becomes a catalyst for damage. When it comes time to remove the style, that's when a lot of women are experiencing breakage. So all that new growth, you're like, girl, look how much my hair is growing. So we talk about it not growing. No, it grew, but during that removal process, it broke. And that could be due to several factors based on installation, managing and caring for the hair while it was in the style, and the process of removing the style.
So how long should we be keeping in each respective hairstyle? So if I would say, okay, how long should we be keeping in a weave? Who wants to hit me with that one?
I think everything is less than a month. So
everything?
I think
I was going to say for a weave, at least a month.
Okay.
No more than 4 weeks. So that's within Dr. Mitchell's timeline, especially because when you think about weaving, you can't get to the scalp.
You can't get to the scalp.
Right. You can't get to the scalp.
So what about braids?
With braids, I recommend no more than 8 weeks, but that's only if you get what I call a touch-up. Because the most fragile part is the hairline. And again, the hair is constantly growing. That extension becomes a weight. So I'm one of the healthiest braiders I know. And I still tell my clients that no matter how little tension I use, how little hair I use, the extension is still a weight. And after a period of that 3 to 4 weeks, the hair is going to grow. And if we don't go in and remove those braids completely, or twist extensions or whatever it is, and redo it, re-anchor it to the scalp so it's not hanging, causing tension, it can cause damage. So if you're going to wear a style longer than 4 weeks, like your braids, your twists, your lock extensions, touch-up is so important, and really concentrating around the hairline, because that's what's being manipulated the most. And that's where a lot of women experience the most damage.
And like you're saying, it's a partnership, right? You have to be a partner with your stylist, and you have to check in, so I think that's really important. And, to be honest, I think that you can extend to 8 weeks. I just think at 4 weeks, we really should be evaluating, what are we doing? We really should be taking it down. I think everyone is different, right? I don't think everyone can go 8 weeks. I don't think everyone can go 4. But I think what's important is that it depends on the style that you have. It depends on what that style is. But when you take it out, are you taking breaks? Are you going right back into that style again? So I think that there's a lot of considerations, again, to promote healthy hair. You got to give the breaks. I often say, try to be in as long as you're out. The same thing, just switch it up.
So what about, there's a good question here about sister locks. What about sister locks in care? She's had tremendous growth and she goes every 8 weeks. How can she protect her edges?
Well, I think with locks are just they're very similar to me when I think about an extension style, because a lock is an accumulation of shed hair. So as the locks get longer, they become weightier. And so what she's doing now to maintain the health of her locks is the best thing that she can do. That consistent retightening process to make sure that the lock is reinforced to the scalp, so it's not becoming a weight. Depending on the length of her locks. So I recently cut my locks within the last year. My locks are to my waist. Oh, wow. And again, it was weight. And even with me maintaining and caring for my hairline, I still felt the weight. And so I knew in order to preserve my hairline, I needed to eliminate the weight. So I had to cut my locks. And that was a personal choice that I made for the health of my hair. But I think for other women, because again, everyone is different. If you want to maintain your length, it's going to be important that with locks, if you're feeling the weight, then you're going to want to manipulate the hair less. Like I noticed when my locks got to my waist, I wasn't pulling them up as much because that's, pulling, it's weight. I wore them down mostly, or I would do like half up, half down. So when we think about our hairlines, they're very fragile. With the locks, you want to keep the maintenance consistent. Okay. And then you just want to avoid styles that are adding more tension, more traction. No tight ponytails, no tightly braided styles. And even, with sister locks, the process of retightening the locks is very similar to what I do, which is like an interlocking method. You want to make sure that's not being done too tightly, because that still too can cause traction.
So now I want to talk about what I'm sure, we've all struggled with at some point, or we're fearful that we're going to have to deal with. And that is hair loss, traction alopecia, and any other related alopecia. But I want to bring on Dr. Lindsay now to join the conversation. You there with us, Dr. Lindsay?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome.
We can hear you.
Everyone. I just finished my last patient, so I'm just running from that to here. So thank you so much for inviting me. Hi, Dr. Ho. Hi, Dr. Kari. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, doing well.
It's so good to have all of you on this space and to give us so much education. I mean, we've talked about everything so far: products, moisture, hair type, how to maintain your different styles. And now I really want to get into how to make sure that we don't get into a place where we have to lose hair unnecessarily. I know there are some conditions that it does happen, but it can really be prevented. So what are, some of the health conditions that Black women might experience that lead to hair loss, and how can we combat them? Dr. Lindsay, I'd love to start with you with that one.
Sure. I mean, I just finished a whole day of patients, and clearly in Black women, the most common condition that I diagnose every single day, multiple times a day, is a condition called CCCA, which stands for centrifugal cicatricial alopecia. Long word, I know. But it's basically a form of scarring or permanent hair loss that happens in the crown of the scalp. It usually starts off small and it spreads over time. So that's what the word centrifugal means. And a lot of research has been done in the past couple of years to determine why this develops. And some really groundbreaking research from my colleagues out of South Africa and Israel found a mutation in a gene that's responsible for how the hair follicle forms, called PADI3. And so in about 25% of people, there's actually a genetic mutation in this particular gene.
That causes this.
What'd you say?
That will cause the alopecia.
Yes. It contributes. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And it's not present in everyone. So we always say this is multifactorial. The other thing that has been found that can trigger this condition are these certain hair care practices that you guys have been talking about. Braids, weaves, locks, question mark relaxers in the past.
Ooh, that creamy crack.
Yeah, so all of these hair care practices can play a contributing role. And so in individuals who are dealing with, and I always have I do a lot of virtual consultations like that, so I just like to show a little picture. Can you guys see this?
I see that.
Yeah, so this is, if you've seen this before on yourself or someone else, you want to get this addressed ASAP, because it's only going to expand over time. And so this is my passion. I see far too many patients who come in super late with this condition. I just diagnosed someone a few minutes ago with this condition because her friend came here. And so thank you for this type of platform to really bring the alarm that this is an epidemic amongst Black women, and it's being called everything that it's not. It's being called stress. She told the patient, told me, my doctor said, oh, it's probably just stress. This is not stress. It has a name, and it's called CCCA. Okay. So,
Did y'all hear that? It is not stress. If it's that, it could be a condition, which is so important to see and have these conversations, because who would know that? I didn't know.
exactly. And so yeah, and so it's like important because people come in and they're like, can I grow my hair back? And we can often get a lot of regrowth, but once those follicles have become scarred, there's nothing there left
There's
to
nothing
grow.
to
So
do.
no oil that you see on Instagram or Facebook is going to bring back hair if there is no follicle there.
Oh
Okay, I want
no.
everyone to understand the science, right? We
Yeah.
have to have
Thank
a healthy
you.
follicle to be able to grow hair from.
If
Yeah.
there's
And
no
so
follicle, there's no hair. There's no oils. There's
no
no
follicle.
magic
So
creams. There's
in this,
nothing.
yeah, in this picture, you can see this lady's follicles are gone in that
Mm.
area. So I try to show patients pictures so they can really get, oh yeah, that makes sense why castor oil didn't work, right? Because there was no follicle there, right? And so yeah, but super important. This condition can also lead to a lot of symptoms, itching. So when we do a lot of this banging, you know,
Well, we're trying to protect our hair. We're not trying to scratch the style up.
right, but a lot of that itching, a lot of us Black women have been accustomed to think that an itchy scalp is normal. It's not
Yeah,
normal.
it's not normal.
I say that these symptoms are our bodies giving us an alarm saying, address this. This is an issue. Don't let this just go, and don't just try to, cover it up with grease and things like that.
Yeah. But how do you know? That is a good question. Sheree just asked, how can you tell if it's gone? I mean, aside from visually, like, can you feel that it's gone? Does it feel smooth or something?
No, this is an expert this is my pro tip I use in my office. I put this on your scalp and I look through and I can see that.
But we don't have that at home. So
this is not a home diagnosis. Getting a diagnosis this is a medical condition, just like your high blood pressure has to get diagnosed or whatever condition you have. And so I think I was in a group last night and one of my colleagues was saying we have such a high threshold to see a dermatologist or to see a doctor. We need to lower that threshold. If you suspect that something's going on, don't try to figure it out on your own. Dr. Hope and I, we went to school like 12 years for this, right?
Right.
So it's a whole thing that we do. And then we specialize in hair loss in particular because a lot of even my dermatology colleagues are not great at diagnosing and treating hair loss. So though there are dermatologists that do like general derm, and then we specialize in hair loss. So yeah, so you won't be able to figure it out at home. It takes.
So you guys hear that? Don't try to self-diagnose. Don't try to feel it and say I'm okay. Like, go and see your medical professional because they are the ones that can really diagnose it. Can scalp massages help though? Is there something that can do to stimulate the scalp and the follicles?
I mean, it can help you get a good nap and feel good, but it's not going to. So this condition is caused by inflammation. There are cells called lymphocytes that are in the scalp that are attacking that hair follicle. So a massage is not going to take care of those lymphocytes. We are often prescribed antibiotics, for example, not because it's infected, but because that helps to decrease the inflammation. So patients often say, what about my diet? Yes, work on your diet, but you can still have a clean diet and still have this condition. So I say, do all the things. Exercise, go to church, pray, do all of it. But that alone, those things alone, I don't think is going to completely eradicate this condition. And so that's why a multi-phased approach is important. Work with your doctor, work with your stylist to make sure they're educated and they're not doing styles that are going to be that we just mentioned that can worsen this problem. But I mean, I'm excited because I have seen with our partnership with stylists, like shout out to the Natural Hair Industry Convention. That's how I met Dr. Kerry a few years ago. We've been partnering with them for the past several years, educating the stylists so the stylists can help to pick these things up, because if there are any stylists watching this, you guys are on the front line with the ability to pick these things up early. By the time people get to me, it's usually very, very late, like this. That
was going to be my question, though. Yes. Yeah, how long does it take for it to develop? Like, if our stylists they're the ones in our hair. If they're not telling us that, oh, you might need to go and insert, see a dermatologist, what are we supposed to do? How long does it take to develop?
So it runs the gamut. But what I do know, most people, the time that they tell me that it's been going on way longer than that. So people will say 6 months. I'll look at it and say, that's not 6 months.
Yeah.
That's been a couple of years. And so many times it can be towards the back and you can't see. So if you don't go to a stylist, have your family members to look through. My patient today just said her daughter said, Mom, it's not looking good back there. And she took a picture for her and she was like, what? So she had no clue. And so we got to work with what we have. Work with the people in your house. Say, hey, can you look at my scalp? If her scalp was itching and burning. And so she said, look at it. And her daughter could see it.
So the itching and burning is definitely a clear indication that something is going wrong on the hair.
Exactly. Right. But sometimes some people have no symptoms at all. So this condition is tricky. It can be tricky sometimes. I'll have patients come in sometimes and their scalp looks a mess. And I'll be like, is it itching her? They be like, it's fine. So I'm like, okay. And so everybody is different. That's why we look at the symptoms, but we also have to look and do a detail. I take my little scope out and I go through and look at the follicles. So it's both. Absolutely.
It's absolutely both. Woo, Dr. Lindsay, you came on with the information.
I just get fired up about this because I just finished seeing patients. I just go, oh boy, we got a lot of work to do. But I'm glad you're having this platform today. Hopefully somebody watching this will be inspired to take action and not keep trying things at home, but actually get to the root. And that's actually the name of my book that I wrote called Getting to the Root, because my goal is to help people to figure out what's really going on. And and so that's what it's all about.
What if someone's not comfortable and they don't have, a stylist is going to tell them, they don't have somebody that can get through their hair, and like a friend is going to tell them that their hair is falling out. What if they're just like, I'm just going to cover it up with a wig or another style? Like, how damaging is that for them?
I mean, you're basically smoldering. Yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Mitchell. Yeah.
No, it's just delaying, what is going on. We need to get a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And like Dr. Lindsay said, CCCA is the most common form of scarring hair loss in Black women, but there are other forms of hair loss. And sometimes it can be more than one thing going on. And so I think it's really important, like she said, I mean, we all agree, as soon as you notice any hair loss, you want to get in to see a dermatologist. I also want people to know that these appointments can be covered under most insurance plans. You know what I mean? So, definitely get in and be seen, but covering it up is not treating it. We need to have treatment for all forms of hair loss. And at this time, we have a lot of great treatments if we can catch it early.
That is great, because that was going to be a question. It's like, is it repairable? But it seems like it is if it's caught early. But when is early and when is it just too late?
It's early when, Dr. Lindsay, could you show that picture again, please?
Yes.
That's early on the left side. That's early.
Too late is the big bald.
Yes, we don't have the optimism that we have when it's the one on the right. Right? There's not a lot that we can do. But on the one on the left, where the spot is smaller, although that patient has lost some hair follicles and has some scarring, we could probably recruit some hairs from the follicles that exist and at least build the density of that area, right? And so we can get hairs to come out of the follicles that we have, and then the density in that area will look better. And so it'll be more of a cover up for that area. And so that's why it's important. That's the benefit of getting these diagnoses early. And then the other thing is, a lot of these diagnoses can be chronic, right? And so they can get better, but there could be a time where it worsens. And so the education that goes into being a partner with a dermatologist is that we hope that you don't take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. Right. Grow the hair, but we also want you to understand your diagnosis, the triggers, other things that can contribute to hair loss, because like Dr. Lindsay said, it's usually multifactorial. There's usually more than one thing going on that we can address. There may be a thyroid dysfunction, there may be a low vitamin D, there may be iron levels that are off. So there's a lot that goes into evaluating, treating, and helping you to maintain healthy hair.
So do they have to come and see a dermatologist, or can it be, or does it have to be a specific hair specialist? Like, who can somebody go see if they realize that something's going wrong? Is it just coming to a dermatologist, or is it somebody else?
It could be multiple people, but we are part of the team. Remember earlier we were talking about the team. So there could be a trichologist, there could be the dermatologist, there could be an endocrinologist if there's hormone imbalance. So there can be multiple people that are part of the repair process, because again, depending upon what's going into the problem, what's adding to the problem of hair loss, we would have to address it all.
Address that as well.
And one thing I want to add, Dr. Hope, is also sometimes you might have to go for a second opinion. And so sometimes I do virtual work with people who've seen a dermatologist and maybe they weren't able to get on a treatment regimen that has been effective. And so I just encourage people to keep going. Don't give up. If you're not getting results, keep going until you get the answers that you need, because you're worth it. You might have to spend a little bit extra money. You might have to spend a little bit of extra time. But from this work that I've been doing the past 10, 11 something years, it's so worth it. My mother was diagnosed with CCCA back in the 80s, and she was just prescribed a topical medication and told there's nothing that can be done. And I would say there's something that can always be done. While we can't bring back all of these follicles, wouldn't you prefer to stay right here than to go there? Definitely. So that's a win. If we can keep it stable, that's a win. Because if you do nothing, in 5-10 years, it's going to be triple the size. So that's the thing. That's the thing we have to keep in mind.
And be willing to travel. We talk about this all the time. Be willing, if you need to travel, even for one appointment. I have had people come to see me from Tennessee, all parts of Ohio.
And you're based in Ohio, correct, Dr. Mitchell?
Yeah. But once you get in and we really can see what's going on, I can continue a lot of the visits virtually.
So y'all hear that? You don't have to go to somebody right where you are.
Check back in 6 months. Depending on what you have, it's worth getting into someone who has a passion about hair loss. It is
who understands your hair type.
It is worth it. Yes.
That's such a good point that you just brought up, because I feel like sometimes we just feel so limited to our area, and we're just like, there's nobody around. I'm just gonna throw on this curly wig until maybe the castor oil starts to kick in, which we know is incorrect. I know that's not gonna work. So thank you so much for bringing that up. What would you say are some small consistent changes that women can implement starting today that is going to help us take back our hair and really continue to protect our amazing crowns? Like, what can we be doing right after this show to say, I've got my hair journey on lock, I know what I'm going to do from this day forward?
I think one of the first things that our viewers and the women who watch this can do is first try to find a stylist in their area that they trust, someone who's trained, someone who can partner with them on the journey. If they already have a hair care regimen, they can consult with that stylist and see, if the products they're using are the best products for their hair care and their hair type. For their scalp and their hair, and then get recommendations. I think that's a simple step. And as far as consistency, once you get those product recommendations, once you have that regimen, again, sticking to it. I know the temptation of new products. Things come.
Social media is just like, ooh.
You want to mix and match and do things, but it's when you start using too many products, if an issue does arise in your hair and scalp, it's hard to pinpoint what it may be. I saw a couple of comments, referencing dermatitis. So when that happens, we got to strip everything and start from ground zero. So I think the simple thing is partnering with someone in your area. And I just love how Dr. Mitchell keeps emphasizing the importance of a team, because as a hairstylist and a trichologist, one thing that I emphasize to my clients, even other stylists that I train, as Dr. Lindsay said, we're the first line, but I don't encourage us to work outside of our scope. And so it's so important that we partner with medical dermatologists, because we are able to at least identify some of these inflammatory inflammatory scalp things, there is nothing we can do in the salon until we eliminate the inflammation. So, you know, that dermatologist would be the next step outside of the salon, and then they would be able to guide and direct to the other medical professionals that a client may need. So simple step, find someone in your area who you trust, who's been trained.
But who also will listen and will have the conversation with you, because if they're looking at your hair and they don't say anything, they're doing you a disservice. So you have to find somebody that is willing to have the conversation and who's going to essentially push you to make that take that next step and find the dermatologist that you can go to.
And
So
I just want to add in, I love what Dr. Kerry just said, because there are some trichologists that I have come across that often disparage dermatologists and say that they can take care of everything themselves. And that's just not true. You know, these are medical conditions. Many times these need to be treated medically with prescriptions and things. We often partner together. And so thank you so much for saying that, because some I have heard in these social media streets, I just like, no.
No, yeah, Dr. Lindsay knows. I'm so big on that. And what I will say is that I have a trichology certification program where I do train stylists. And because of my position on the board, I know how important it is to stay within our scope. And we're not going to help our clients over promising things that, again, are outside of our scope.
right.
Because again, it's medical, and we are not licensed or trained in medicine. We cannot diagnose. I'm also really big on language. You know, when I talk to stylists and even my own clients, not to diagnose, as Lindsay and Dr. Mitchell both have talked about. I can identify based on talking to my clients about symptoms they're experiencing, or you know, me having the ability to use my trichoscope in salon to get a magnified look at the scalp. But once I do that, I cannot diagnose. I cannot.
You gotta give it to the next person.
Tell my client, this is CCCA. I tell my client, this is characteristic of. But as Dr. Mitchell said earlier, there's so many scalp conditions that mimic and look like one another. It might be some androgenic in there.
Right. So we got the whole team has to come together for sure. Are there some places that, I mean, we've got so many people that tune in from all over the country, and finding a dermatologist, let's be real, is not an easy kind of situation sometimes. And I know that blackdoctor.org has a great resource, has a great directory of resources. But is there a specific, like for Black dermatologists, Black hair care specialists that we could, you know, provide for the viewers today that they can go and look some people up?
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes. Go ahead, Dr. Lindsay.
Okay. One of our colleagues created a wonderful resource. They have an Instagram page and a website. It's called blackdermdirectory.com. How simple can you get? And you can search by zip code and you can find a dermatologist. I would recommend any of these people in your areas. And there may not be someone directly in your city. Getting back to Dr. Mitchell's point that you may have to travel. I'm not sure if the viewers know, but we make up only 3% of the nation's dermatologists. And we are 12% of the U.S. population. So there is definitely an underrepresentation. So shout out to all the youth out there. If you want a great career, this is something to think about. Because you can make a huge impact in our community. And so, so blackdermdirectory.com. Check that out.
Okay, so Black Derm Directory, everybody. That's a great place to find a dermatologist near you, or somewhere within a reasonable driving or maybe even flying distance, because your hair is worth it. So before we let you go, Dr. Mitchell, I'm going to start with you. What is something that the viewers can take with them today, that you want to leave with them today, about how they can go on a more positive hair journey and really take control of their hair health?
You know, I know we're all going to say something different, but for me, because of my passion, don't be afraid if you are experiencing hair loss. Do not be afraid. I think just about all of us have had an experience with hair loss. And it's why we're here is because we want to empower you to get in and get the help that you need. Don't cover it up. Don't be afraid to get more than one consultation if necessary. Make sure that when you see, you know, that you reach out, that you're reaching out to someone that you are assured is culturally competent, right? So, you know, if that first go round doesn't go right, go the second go round, go the third go round, but you need to take charge. You need to be the CEO of your hair.
Woo!
Make
CEO
sure
of your hair.
that, because it's your hair and you are born with all the follicles you ever have. They are yours. And so you want to protect them. Don't be afraid at all. We are here. We're out here. We're very compassionate. We know more than we've ever known. I've been in the field for 23 years, and just the excitement about what I can do in my hair loss consultations now that I could not do when I finished residency, it is absolutely amazing. And so I just want to encourage you all. I agree with Dr. Lindsay. We are compassionate. We are kind. We want to help you. We want to empower you. We want to educate you. And that's what your consultation could be about, with the right person.
With the right person. Love that. Thank you. What about you, Dr. Kerry? What do you want to leave with the viewers today about their hair health?
I just want to add on to what Dr. Mitchell says. She phrased it so beautifully. I think the most important thing, especially when I think about the hairstylist community, is the same standard. To really take your time and consult with your stylist and your professional stylist, and to know again that you have the right to make the choices that are going to be best for you. And so don't be afraid to ask those tough questions, or to ask if they've been licensed, or, are they familiar with this, type of hair care? These are things that are important, because I've had experiences with clients who will have experienced a stylist where they didn't ask these questions, whether it was out of fear, intimidation, or, whatever it may be. But I really love what Dr. Mitchell said. I think that's so important, because that's where the journey begins, especially for those who need support. So, do your due diligence, take your time, and then honor yourself and whatever it is that you feel when you go. And again, it's okay to get, multiple opinions, and to take your time. So I would like to just add to that and encourage all of the viewers to find a good partner and a good team.
Find your partner, find your team, y'all. All right, Dr. Lindsay, what are you going to leave us with? What do the viewers need to take with them today to really feel good about their hair and their journey?
Sure. I would echo everything that my colleagues have said before me. And I would just say one thing I always like to leave: get a diagnosis first. Okay. People always ask me, what should I go buy? What should I go and try? Nothing. Go buy a diagnosis. Take your copay. That's what you use your money for, and get a diagnosis. Because the reason why is because the 6 months you waste trying biotin and trying this or that, you could be losing follicles. And so we are on a follicle rescuing mission. We are trying to save every follicle that you have. And so that 6 months, that 4 months, all of that makes a huge difference. And so
wait, hold on. Dr. Lindsay, you're saying the hair, skin, nail, pills, all that stuff, don't do it?
Don't do it.
Okay.
Don't do it.
So many people come in, they've already spent so much money. And then I'm telling them some other stuff. But the thing that I tell you is going to be evidence-based. That means there has been some research that has been done. And I mean, oh my goodness, there's so many things that are out there that people are buying that have no data behind them. So that's why you want to partner with an expert. That's why you want to spend your money wisely. You spend your time wisely, because time is not only money, time is follicle.
It's follicle.
Time is follicle. I'm just going to end on that one. Time is follicles. Be the CEO of your hair. Listen, you all have been absolutely amazing. I don't know anywhere else that we could have had such an incredible conversation about our hair and what we need to do, and getting it from experts, for our hairstylists and medical professionals. Like, this has been incredible. I know that all the viewers watching right now and all the people that are going to watch the replay are going to feel so blessed that they had the opportunity to sit in on this conversation and get incredibly educated. So thank you all, Dr. Kerry, Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Lindsay. I'm so grateful for you all. Everybody watching, I really hope that you've gleaned a ton of information from today's show. It is on replay. You can watch it on Black Doctor Facebook and YouTube platforms. And just taking the information and just love your hair, love your journey, and don't be afraid of what you got going on right now, because it can always be improved. So once again, thank you for joining me this week. I will see you all again next week, same time, same place. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.